GPT 2026 new features and updates. I'm Hector Garcia, CPA, and I'm doing this in collaboration with CPA Academy. As mentioned earlier, that link in the top right, bit.ly/ChatGPT 2026, takes you to the live Google slides, which are better than the static PDF because as I do live things on the screen, I tend to insert those links so later on you can preview this on your own computer and kind of see the exact same conversations that I'm having with ChatGPT, because that's really where most people look at it and go, wow, okay, now I totally get it. So you definitely want to conserve that link. That's right there on the top right, because that's going to give you access to the live slides. So really quick, I'll introduce myself quickly, then we'll talk about some ChatGPT and AI news. So it's not all about ChatGPT, even though ChatGPT is the sort of retail name in the AI world. We do have to keep in mind the fact that there's a lot more things beyond ChatGPT, and most likely probably more worth looking at the things that are moving around ChatGPT, not ChatGPT in itself. We're going to spend most of the time in ChatGPT, but I'm going to show you some non-ChatGPT things towards the end if we have time after we cover the ChatGPT stuff. We're going to talk about evaluating these alternatives. So I'm going to give you a really cool link where you can check out, all the things that are happening and what other people are saying about these other forms. And then we're going to try to do some accounting contextual things, right? So things that a typical accounting firm would do, because I'm an accountant and most of you watching this are probably in the accounting or small business world. So we'll talk about the latest model. How does instant thinking and pro kind of work with each other and why you have the choice to do that. We're going to do an example of deep research, and we've done this before. So if you've done webinars from me before, you've seen deep research and you've seen agent mode. But I'm going to try to show you a new thing in agent mode that's kind of interesting, where it kind of takes over your browser. So we're going to discuss what that looks like. We're going to briefly discuss the App Store, because ChatGPT's integrations is probably going to be the next big thing, especially when Intuit and Xero and NetSuite and all these accounting software companies, maybe even the tax software companies, start integrating with ChatGPT. TurboTax, which I don't use, I'm a professional tax preparer, but TurboTax already has a connector to ChatGPT. So at some point, people are going to be able to chat with their tax return, that sort of thing. So that's super interesting to see that. And then we'll do a couple of examples of prompting. I'm going to try to answer any live questions that people have about it. So I'm going to integrate it live while people ask the question. I'm going to try to answer it within, that particular area that I'm showcasing, or I'll look at the live questions and then maybe towards the end, I'll try to answer them as much as possible, or kind of do examples based on what people are asking for. Okay, so let's get right to it. My name is Hector Garcia. I've been practicing in bookkeeping and accounting since 2009. I have a YouTube channel. Just search my name in YouTube, you'll see, or click on the link in there. I'm the founder of a software called WriteTool, which is an integrated software that talks to QuickBooks Online. We do have some AI things in there already, which is pretty cool. And I'm the host of the Reframe event, which is an event that I created that combines aspects of artificial intelligence and practice management, advisory, pricing, that sort of thing. If anything that I don't cover here is a pressing question for you, just email me. My email is right there on the screen, and I'll do my best to get you an answer. Sometimes I'll answer with a video tutorial about it. Let's talk about ChatGPT news or AI news. First of all, AI is now going to experiment with a lower cost ChatGPT Go. Is called $8 version. Now, what's very different about this approach is that this is going to be ad supported. So now, if you're using the free version of ChatGPT or the $8 version, you're going to see ads. And one of the things that people loved about ChatGPT is, you were getting objective answers, so to speak, but now you're going to have ads. And the problem with ads is now they can manipulate the answers, or at least the ads popping up in a certain order of the answer could feel as a user that the answers are a little bit adulterated by whoever is paying the most ads, to show up. So just be careful about the non-professional versions of these AI tools, because they have to monetize. And we're going to go back to the ads model, kind of like the way Google works with the Google searches. Now, recent news, OpenAI and Intuit, and I put a link there in the description. You can read all about it. Of course, this is from Intuit's perspective, which they think is a huge win. They made a multi-year contract, $100 million over a couple of years, to work with within their ecosystem. So that's QuickBooks, that's TurboTax, that's MailChimp, that's Credit Karma. And you already are seeing Credit Karma, MailChimp, and TurboTax apps inside ChatGPT. They haven't added QuickBooks just yet. I'm kind of waiting for that day so I can be excited about that. But you're going to see the power of ChatGPT into its products very, very soon. Another thing that we talked about is the App Store. So when you click on the link that is in there, you're going to see while you're in ChatGPT all the apps that you can integrate with ChatGPT. So you click on any of these apps, and all these apps will have like their own login. So if you have an account with Apple Music, you can have it interact with your playlist. If you have an account with Photoshop, it could potentially interact with your images. If you click on productivity, you're going to see more of the stuff that's more business minded. So I know some accounting firms use Agentforce or Airtable or Box or Dropbox or Basecamp. You know, all apps that kind of feel Google Drive, of course, Gusto for payroll. There it is. Look into it. TurboTax, MailChimp, JotForm. So like I've talked to a lot of software companies. There's Ramp, there's Outlook Calendar, Outlook Email, Notion, Slack, Steam, Stripe. Things that feel like the stuff that we do every day now start integrating with ChatGPT. So it's going to be a sort of a new interface to interact with your outside data that's not in ChatGPT. That's super interesting. ChatGPT released its own browser. I believe it's Mac only right now. But what's really interesting is agent mode, which I'm going to do a demo on, where it takes over the functions and it works in your behalf. And that's going to be a glimpse into the future where AI is kind of like a mini robot in your computer doing the things that you would otherwise be doing on your own. Claude, who's the main competitor of ChatGPT, release also a Chrome extension that can take over your browser. But on top of that, there's a Mac-based app that has a feature called Cowork that can actually go into a folder in your computer and manipulate the files in that folder. And I'll try to, if I have time, I'll try to do an example of that. If not, you'll see a video in my YouTube channel about it. And of course, you definitely want to check out ChatGPT release notes. That way you always know you're up to date on the things that ChatGPT is publicly making available. Now, I want to talk about non-ChatGPT stuff. I want to talk about apps that I use in this AI ecosystem that I welcome you or encourage you to try. So Google Gemini as an alternative to ChatGPT. Inside Google Gemini, there's something called Notebook LM, which is part of its ecosystem. It's also pretty interesting. It just works a little bit different. Anthropic Claude, of course, that's today's biggest competitor to ChatGPT. And every single software programmer I have talked to, including the software programmers in my software company, they prefer Claude over ChatGPT or Gemini for coding. So we're going to see a lot of engineering and software engineering move to Claude. Now, Perplexity is really cool because it can actually use any model. I'm going to show you, I'm going to go into Perplexity really quick. This one's worth understanding how it works because it's really good for research. And also, you can choose which model you want. So Gemini is not, Perplexity is not necessarily its own model, like Grok or Claude or ChatGPT. It allows you to pick whichever model you want. So if you're paying for Perplexity, it's almost the same as paying a little bit for each one and allows you to test each one. And actually, you can have it choose the best model. Like I don't have to necessarily choose a particular thing. I can have it choose the best model. Let me just go back to the Perplexity homepage here. You can have it choose the best model for you. So if I were to ask it a question, and I'm going to ask it, let me just turn on my microphone here. So I have a client that's asking me questions about how no tax on tips work, and I haven't done an actual tax return on this. So I don't know what the W-2 looks like. I don't know what the 1040 looks like. I don't know what the schedule looks like. But they're really, really concerned about making sure that when we do the tax return, we're applying no tax on tips. So could you give me a Reader's Digest version of how to explain to them exactly how this works to ease their anxiety around it? Now, one thing that you will also notice is that I don't type into my computer. Like I'm done with that. Like that's so 2025, okay? So I talk to my computer. I don't waste my time with the keyboard. I'm faster at talking. And it doesn't matter if punctuation doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. It will pick up all the nuances and it will know how to organize your thoughts and have the prompt correctly. So a lot of people obsess about the perfect prompt. I'm actually not obsessed about perfect prompts anymore. Just tell it what you want, and it doesn't matter. Natural language, weird pauses, even a thick accent, it doesn't matter. It'll figure it out even if it didn't catch your words correctly. So here's Perplexity. Now the cool thing about Perplexity is Perplexity almost always focuses a lot in the sources. So you go to view 10 sources and you go through and you see where it got the information from. That's something that a lot of people value, is understanding that the AI got the answers from a very specific place. Now, just because it read it from the internet doesn't mean it's true. No, it doesn't mean it's true. It could be crap, especially these websites that I never heard of. Jones Keller or Bipartisan Policy or Finance U Pen. Okay, there's Treasury, fine. HR Drive, I don't know what this is. CNBC. Again, some people can say it's biased or whatever. So the reality is, I like the fact that this is immediately telling you what the sources are. So contextually, you can decide at that point before you read or counter this information is, I'm going to trust this information. And you can actually tell it in the prompt to only limit itself to IRS or Treasury or something like that. So here's the answer on the no tax on tips. And what's also really cool is within each of the sentences or points, you have direct links. So imagine where you send someone an email with the answer to their question or whatever it is, and you have sources in between. So that helps you, what they call in our industry CYA, right? We can say, look, based on my research, based on multiple sources, this is going to be your answer. So I absolutely love this style of answer. And then you can just simply go into copy here, go into a new email, like whatever email system you use. I'm going to go compose, and then I can just literally just paste in there. Okay, so I can just paste in there, and there's my email. Now, I think that some of these little link attributions here make it look very AI. I think at this point, our clients kind of understand completely AI answers. So this is a hot tip for you. Some of the things I do is I'll start with, let me use my, Mr. Customer, thank you for your question, comma. I actually asked this question to my custom AI system that provides answers fairly quickly, and I wanted to share this with you, comma. If you want to have a discussion around how this thing applies particularly to you, let's set up an appointment. It's just $500 for the consultation, period. So I'm just telling you that, yes, what I would definitely do is, if you're going to copy and paste from AI software, particularly to answer questions, I would just tell them up front. I have a custom AI system that provides answers, and then hey, if you want to talk about how it works, how this works for you, there we go. Now, a lot of people ask me at this point is, Hector, how do you talk to your computer like that? So one thing that's really important is some of these systems have a built-in have a built-in dictation button. So you can click on the dictation button and talk to it. So most of them have their own built-in dictation button. I actually purchased a separate application called Whisper Flow, which I absolutely love. And what I like about Whisper Flow, particularly when I'm not dictating into AI, but I'm dictating into an email or dictating into a chat, a Slack, or whatever, what's really cool about Whisper Flow, and I have the link there in the live slides, and it's $12 a month. Okay, it's not cheap. Okay, and especially if you give it to your whole team. But what's really cool about this is it'll turn your ramble, so to speak, into something more cohesive. So in ChatGPT, I don't have to worry about using this. I just use regular dictation and I'm done. But in other places where it's just free typing, I like to use this dictation app because it's super easy to use. And again, $12 a month for the amount of productivity that it gives me is big. And I think that's the more important part. I think the most valuable piece of this is the fact that these non-chat apps using AI really are the one that showcase the power of AI. So the other apps that I like is this one called Note GPT. This one's really cool. what you do is you can put any YouTube video in here. So it's really good for like podcasts that are YouTube based. And like I'll open a podcast that's like 2.5 hours long, and I'm like, oh man, I've heard this guy talk so many times. I'm worried that I'm gonna listen to another 2.5 hour podcast, and he might say the same thing that I've heard him say before. So like, should I invest 2 hours to try to find some new piece of information? So like, I'll give you an example here. So like, one of the people I like listening to, his name is Rory Sutherland. He's just an amazing guy. But again, a lot of the stuff that he says is very similar all the time. So I'll copy this video link, and then I'll go into Node GPT, and then I can either do a summarizer or I can do a YouTube to text. What I like about YouTube to text is that it just gives me the raw text, and then I can plug that into my own ChatGPT and then decide what am I going to do with that knowledge. Or you can just do a summarizer, and then you can plug that in, okay? And then you can go to generate summary, and the thing will, go into YouTube, download the transcript, and process a summary of that video. And, I'm, as a YouTube creator myself, that creates a lot of content and long form content. People all the time tell me, I got to watch a 2-hour video from Hector to find out if something that they're going to teach me is something that I need. Well, here you go. So before making a huge investment in time or listening to a podcast or watching a video or whatever, you get to see a quick summary. And at that point, you can decide whether or not to make the investment and listen to the thing, or maybe the insights, are all here. So I just love this app, Node GPT. I'm using the free version. They do have an upgradable version that's like $20 a month, but I don't use it as often to have to get to that paid version, but that's something I would love for you to check out. Now, if you're into programming, or you have internal development teams, or working with a developer to help you build your own app, so to speak, I recommend looking at Base 44, Google AI Studio, Lovable. Those three are amazing. One of my programmers uses Lovable. Another one uses Google AI Studio. Everybody has their own style. I'm doing a lot of stuff with AI Studio. As a matter of fact, I recently developed an app in Google AI Studio, which I'll give you access to really quick. So I'm kind of testing this out. So I recently developed an app, and this happened like last week, literally. So I'll go in my apps, and this one is it's called a QBO Converter Pro. I know absolutely nothing about code. I'm a CPA, and I know a lot about CPA stuff. Okay, I know about accounting. I know about business. I know about tax. But I used this chat, and it took me maybe like an hour or two, just kind of telling it everything that I wanted, and it made this app public. Okay, actually, where's the link to this thing? I'm going to give you the link to this thing. Where is it? Okay, give me a second until I'm going to deploy it. It's actually super cool. So I'm going to go to app URL, and I'm going to go into my slides here. So you have to be on the live slides to be able to access this. So I'm going to put here Hector's custom app that converts Excel to .qbo. And if you're a QuickBooks Desktop user, you know what this does, right? So you don't have the ability to connect the bank. So you can take an Excel file or a CSV file with this app, and you can literally upload it to this application that I coded this without knowing any code. You upload your CSV file here or paste your data, and then it goes through a process of, let me show you really quick. It goes through a process of asking me what each of the columns are. So here, there's my date, my amount, my description. You put your bank, your routing number, and then it extracts the data from Excel or CSV and generates this thing called a .qbo file. If you never use QuickBooks Desktop, you don't know what this means. This is Greek to you. But if you're a QuickBooks Desktop user today and you can't connect a bank directly into QuickBooks to download the transactions, and the only thing you have access to is a CSV file or an Excel file, this could be a way that you can emulate doing bank feeds into this. I had a client that just had that challenge recently, and I said, you know what, Mr. Client, I'm going to solve this problem for you. And I did, and it took me an hour, and it's amazing, and the client loves me forever. and it costs very little, for the amount of value that you can create. And I don't have to go hire a developer. So once again, to access any links that you see me post live, you have to use that link that is at the top right of the screen, bit.ly/ChatGPT 2026. So you have access to anything that I'm sort of creating on the fly. Another app that I like is called Loom. Loom allows you to make quick tutorials, and it uses AI to do editing and to do magic clips or even summarize or create step-by-step tutorials. It's incredible if you have to walk people through process, whether it's a client or an internal employee. If you do any podcast or video creation, Riverside FM is amazing. It also does a lot of awesome live editing. Digits is today's competitor to QuickBooks Online that I feel is probably doing the best job at leveraging AI. Okay, now I've been a QuickBooks head my whole life, and I still kind of am, and I haven't moved any of my clients to Digits, so I'm not doing any sort of endorsement. But if there's an app worth looking at that's leveraging AI, I feel the right way, particularly for bank feed categorization, Digits seems to be a really interesting one. Someone's asking me, what do you use for creating SOPs? Fred, good question. I think Loom is amazing for SOPs if your SOPs have to do with technical processes. So if you're doing something inside of tax software and clicking here, clicking here, clicking there, Loom is amazing for that, for tutorial, step-by-step driven SOPs. If your SOPs are more like company policies, pricing policies, hiring policies, you can just use ChatGPT for that. You can use ChatGPT Canvas, which I'll try to demo as well. And Makers Hub is also a really cool app that allows you to bring in bills and POs into Makers Hub. It uses AI to extract all the detailed data, and then it brings that into QuickBooks. Gina's asking, what are you using for cash flow? Gina, I have not been able to crack the cash flow code. I feel the cash flow apps are out there. None of them really understand what cash flow means. I feel my customers don't know what cash flow means. I feel I don't know what cash flow means. I think the cash flow solution is one it feels like it's very, very difficult to solve. All right. So if you're overwhelmed by this, okay, fine. You're supposed to be. It's an overwhelming topic. Okay, I'm sorry. You if you're gonna get into at this point 3 years into ChatGPT, any webinars that I teach, I'm just gonna bombard you with useful information, and then later on you have to watch the recording and then decipher which of these things are gonna be most useful for you. I'm gonna do a couple of practical examples, but it's really, really important to understand that the landscape is bigger than just ChatGPT. So this website called LM Arena, basically actual users, most of them pretty much AI experts, they use these tools and they vote for their favorite one. And this stuff is always moving. Like it's like tomorrow you'll pull this and there'll be somebody ranking number 2. But you'll see that right now, a snapshot of today, ChatGPT 5.1 is ranked number 9 amongst the score that all the users are giving us. So you get to kind of see kind of like who's coming up and who's really competing with ChatGPT. Like we have Gemini, Grok. We know these, right? Gemini is Google. Grok is Elon Musk, X. Claude, we talked about it. And then we have this one called Ernie, which I've never heard, like literally never heard of this until today. Let me see, what the heck in the world is Ernie? So it seems to be a Chinese model, and right now is ranked number 8 globally, right? So usually you should be able to Google Ernie and then or click on one of these things and actually see what it looks like. So I'm going to click on that, and then you get to play with it. Like a lot of these have free versions until they have paid versions. Again, it's up to you to decide if you will trust Chinese AI or not. At the same time, do you even trust an American AI or not? Who the hell knows? Okay. So that's that link is right there on that slide. That's called the LM Arena. So I won't go to this slide, but this slide basically says all the different options that you have, all the different prices, all the different things that are available within the ChatGPT world. So I'm actually gonna now confine everything into ChatGPT. So you can do a free version, the Go version, which again, these two are gonna be ad supported. So I immediately, if I know there's ads in there, I'm probably not gonna want to waste my time. There's Plus and there's Pro. A lot of people here are Microsoft users, and they ask me about Copilot. I think Copilot, honestly, for me, this is completely subjective, just because I'm a Microsoft hater. I think Copilot is useless. It's absolutely useless. Like comparing the power to everything else is absolutely useless. The one thing that Microsoft Copilot has that no one else has is that at some point in the very near future / now, Copilot can actually manipulate your Windows computer and can search within all the files inside your computer. And from that perspective, I see a lot of potential in using Copilot. And also, if you're using the Microsoft ecosystem, Outlook, Excel, Word, and you have all your data like repository, like these files in there, I see some power on using ChatGPT. Using Copilot. But from my experience and talking to people, it's a very blah 2 year ago powerful version of it. So I just think it doesn't advance quick enough. Okay. Anyway, so let's move on to discuss. So I'm not gonna go to the slides. This is just kind of a quick cheat sheet. I'm gonna go into ChatGPT and let me start a new chat. Now I'm gonna start making a statement, and this is gonna sound like fighting words. Okay, my ChatGPT is better than yours. My ChatGPT is better than yours, and even though I pay the same thing, my ChatGPT is better than yours. Now, why is my ChatGPT better than yours? It's called context. I've been using ChatGPT for 3 years. It knows me. It understands, what I want, what I do for a living. It understands the context of what I'm trying to do. I've told it what I want to do with my personal life, with my family life, with my commercial life. I told it what my hopes and dreams are. I told it a bunch of stuff. And some people will argue, Jesus, Hector, why are you giving, all this information to ChatGPT? I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm not giving it social security numbers, or I'm not telling it my biggest fears. Okay, I'm not doing that. Okay, when the AI overlords take over, they won't know that. But my ChatGPT is better than yours because when I ask it a question or something that's valuable to me, it's going to be very, very custom to what I want. Now I'm gonna show you the difference. Okay, so there's a little button here in the top right of the screen called Turn on Temporary Chat. When you click on that, it actually turns off all your history, all your context. So my ChatGPT is the same as yours when I do a temporary chat. Pretty much temporary chat, everybody is using the same ChatGPT without using the context. So let me give you an example, okay? I'm gonna ask it a question that a lot of accounting professionals have to deal with, and it's gonna give me a very generic answer. And then when I switch over to my ChatGPT is better than yours, right, with my context, the answer is going to be significantly different, and it's going to be customized to who I am, what I want, what I dream about, everything that I've shared with ChatGPT in the past. Okay, so I have a client that keeps telling me that my services are too expensive, and I really want to work with them, and I need that client, but I'm really busy right now. It's tax season. I just don't have time to deal with that. Can you help me prepare for this conversation better? Okay. So again, I used a very generic challenge, right? That a lot of accounting professionals have, particularly the ones that have to sell their own services. And in the temporary mode, it's going to come back and give me a generic answer. So it's like incognito for ChatGPT. It's probably the best way to do it. The good thing is you get a very generic answer, and sometimes that's something that you want. The bad thing is that it doesn't save the chat. And it also, there's just never history of this chat. So it's more like a one-time use thing, okay, so to speak, okay? So it's giving me a very generic answer. Reframe what's actually happening. Your client is saying you're too expensive, but maybe they mean I don't understand the value. Here's my internal anchor. My pricing reflects my capacity, experience. The fact that it's tax season, I don't need to defend that. I just explain it once, clearly, whatever. Okay. So it gives me like a very generic answer. And this one I can't share with you because it's a temporary chat. Okay. But let's say I do a new chat. I don't do temporary chat, and I make sure that it uses my context. Now, the way to turn on ChatGPT being able to use your context is you're going to go into the settings. You're going to click where it says personalization. You can do settings too. Either one, you can go to it. And under personalization, you can scroll down and you can tell it information about you. So I'm going to say my nickname is Hex. Okay, it's kind of interesting. My occupation is CPA. My custom instructions is no bullshit answers. Give it to me straight. No sugar coating or glazing me. Okay, specifically how I want it to speak to me. Okay, because ChatGPT tends to do a lot of BSing, a lot of sugarcoating, a lot of "you're amazing" type of stuff. Like if I was some sort of the supreme leader of this world and I needed to be told, how amazing I am. Okay. So you tell it specifically what you want, kind of the style. You can even tell it, the characteristics. So do I want it to be more warm, less warm, whatever? Do I want it to be enthusiastic? I don't want it to be enthusiastic at all. Okay. Do you want to have more headers and lists like bullet points, or you want it to be more paragraph based? So I'm going to do more paragraph based. Emojis, no emojis. I hate emojis. I think they kind of get on the way here. Okay. And then I tell it, reference saved memories. That's every single time I told ChatGPT, remember this. So when you tell it, remember this, or make sure you remember this, or quote, save this into the memory, it goes into a memory bank. Now, when I click here, it says manage. That's when I go into ChatGPT's memory bank, and I can see every single time I told it to remember. Now, sometimes it will remember. It will implicitly. It will know that that you probably should remember this, but this is every single time that I told it, remember this, remember this, remember this, and it goes through and does all that. Now that's important because you explicitly want to tell it what to remember. Now you can delete any specific memories, which I love. Okay, and you can also have it turn on automatically manage. Automatically manage, what it does is it will know, or it will guess when something needs to be remembered and something needs to be deleted or replaced. And you can also view the history, so you can see when it was the last time that we had memory, and it has multiple versions of memory too. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so that's memories. There's also reference browser memories. That's when you use a ChatGPT browser, which I'm not there yet. And then reference chat history, which is different than memories. That's referencing any chat I ever had. So I could have a chat where I was having maybe a personal conversation about like my calorie intake or whatever, and I didn't say remember this, but it will remember that, so to speak, because it can reference the chat history. So if I turn off referencing chat history, I'm going to strictly have it go to something where I said remember this. But if I include chat history, it will remember what I told it to remember, and also any other conversation that I haven't deleted yet. So I'm going to click on save. And this is what I mean by I haven't deleted yet. If I have a live chat here that I don't want it to be used for reference, I can just click on it and click on delete. So if there's any specific chats where I don't want it to be used in the ecosystem of remembering stuff, I can do that. The other thing that you can do is you can create projects. And what projects allows you to do is allows you to create pockets of memory. Okay, so I can create a new project called personal health or something like that. Okay, so I got a project called personal health, and then after the project is created, I can go back into any of my history, and if I see anything here that's like personal health related, I don't know if I still have that. Okay, for example, this one that says my trip to Europe, right? Like I'm trying to do something like a trip to Europe, so I'm gonna come in here and move it to personal health. And then what happens is you start moving historical chats into a project, and then no longer it will use project-based memories or histories for the context. Okay, so that's a really important thing, and this is only available in your own ChatGPT. So even if you have the team version of ChatGPT, it doesn't share this. It doesn't share this at all. Now in the project settings, something they're gonna add pretty soon on the team version of ChatGPT is you'll be able to add team members into a particular project, so you can share that. You can share that with other team members. I haven't seen it, or at least in my version of it, it's not showing. But for team sharing, that's going to be really interesting. I'm still talking about within the context of your own ChatGPT. So anyway, I'll get out of projects, and then I'm going to ask it the same question, the same pricing question. I have a client that keeps telling me that my services are too expensive. I'm in the middle of tax season. I don't have time for this, but I need the client. I don't want to lose them, and I'm trying to prepare to give them a better answer. Again, same type of problem, but now it's going to use my context, and the answer is going to be significantly different. Now, will it be better than the generic answer? I'm not sure. But look, I'm going to tell you the truth, no sugarcoating, right? So, because I told it, don't sugarcoat things, right? And then it tells you here's what you can do, right? So you can acknowledge their concern, right? You can anchor the value without itemizing or justifying, quietly introduce an exit ramp. And I have told it before that I like to empathize with people. I told it that, I don't want to judge what they're saying, that I don't want to, itemize what they're saying. And I also told ChatGPT that I'm comfortable losing clients, right? I always provide them an option not to work with me. That context, changes the way the answer is. So notice that there's a lot less sugarcoating, a lot more straightforward answers. So here's its suggestion, right? I hear you and I want to be transparent with you. My fees aren't based on the forms or the time. They're based on the responsibility I'm taking on, the accuracy acquired, and the fact that you're not carrying the risk or stress yourself. During tax season, my capacity is limited. I can prioritize clients who value certainty, responsiveness, and clean outcomes over a bargain price. That said, if you're really looking for lowest cost option, I can absolutely help you transition to someone after tax season. If what you want is reliability and peace of mind, then my fee won't change, but my commitment doesn't either. Again, it's my style. That's my style. I'm blunt like that. I'm forward like that. So sometimes I want answers like that. I want it to be based on my particular history with ChatGPT. That way, it's less generic. And kind of I think the worst thing you can do is give somebody ChatGPT answers that sound like everybody else. Okay, my friend Ron Baker, who's a thought leader in the accounting industry, he was asked one time, "Are you worried that ChatGPT will take over accountants?" And he said, "I'm more worried about accountants behaving like ChatGPT." And that seems to be so true, especially that you go to social media, you look at people's LinkedIn posts and stuff. Everything is so obviously, blatantly written by AI that is just boring, is slop. And this stuff is going to seep into the quality of our work. So I want to be very, very careful, making sure that you don't fall into that trap. Okay. All right, let's talk about using ChatGPT for other type of things. For example, like I guess most of you know and understand the context that you ask it a question and it answers back. And I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to live edit the document as I work with it. So I'm going to go to here, the little add button. I'm going to go to more and I'm going to click on Canvas. Canvas is my favorite writing mode, co-work mode with ChatGPT. What it does is when you ask it to do something, it puts it into almost like almost looks like a Word file. And then you can do all sorts of live editing to the document as it creates it. Help me create a standard operating procedure for when a client complains about the accuracy of the financial statements that were given them with their monthly bookkeeping. I want all of my team members to follow a very specific process prior to immediately bringing it upstream to the manager or the owner of the firm. Okay, so we start with something like that. And because we're in Canvas mode, it's going to write it, but it's going to put it in this open canvas. Again, it looks almost like a Word document that I can do live editing with. So I really, really like working with the Canvas version of this. So once it's done typing, you can click here where it says edit, or download is cool because you can download a PDF or a doc already pre-formatted for you. But the idea is for you to click on edit and then sort of edit the live document. So there's two things happening in Canvas mode. On the left-hand side, you have your standard ChatGPT chat, and you can use this to brainstorm, ask questions. That doesn't necessarily change the document. So it makes your work a lot faster, right? Because maybe I don't want to change the document yet, but I just want to ask her questions about what it thinks about a particular thing, and then I can tell it to change the document, okay? So for example, let's say, so it broke it down like this: handling client complaints, purpose, scope, guiding principles, clients trust when you build calm, methodical process, not defensiveness. So a couple of things I don't like about ChatGPT is doing what's called rhetorical devices, where it says is not X, is Y. So I want to tell it not to do that. I hate that. Okay, I hate rhetorical devices, and I also hate M dashes. I feel M dashes because I never use M dashes. It makes it feel very, very AI. So I'm going to tell it to do two things. I'm going to say one, don't use M dashes. I don't even know if that's spelled correctly. I'm actually going to copy and paste it here. So he knows exactly what I mean by that. And the second one is don't use rhetorical devices like is not X is Y, like, and I'll give it a particular example of, this was actually a good one. Okay, example of what I want, right? So I basically I'm telling it, don't sound like AI by telling it what makes them sound like AI. So I'm gonna click on that. So I chat on the left hand side, and then you're gonna see it immediately goes in there and makes the changes for you. So it goes out and finds everything. It makes changes for you. Again, it will get rid of the M dashes. It will remove all the rhetorical devices, all that stuff, and it'll do that live for you, which I actually really love. Okay. So here's a step-by-step process of perform an internal verification checklist, timing and cutoff, reconciliation status, common classification notes. I'm going to do one more thing here, which I'm going to click here, okay, in this little plus button. And what this allows me to do is this allows me to tell it where I want to insert new information. So I want to have it insert, add something about checking if the documents are complete. Sometimes the customer sends us short data and we have to make, see, this is why I don't type, assumptions for expediency. Okay, so you kind of like plug in where you want to add something, and then you tell it exactly where you want to add it, and it went in there and it added it in there. So you add it right there in that area. Okay. Now you could also tell it where you want it. You don't have to like click on it, for example. So so for the root cause, I can go in there and go in step 4. Make sure you add a bullet point that the root cause could also be the client's misunderstanding of how financial statements work. Like, for example, people think that profit and money in the bank are the same. So when the financial statements show a certain level of profitability and it doesn't match the bank, whether it's higher or lower, they automatically assume the financial statements are wrong. Okay. And so I'll send that in there. So it's going to go in there, and it knows in step 4, it's going to add a bullet point for that, right? So client expectation gap, timing, basis, reality, misunderstanding of financial statements work, etc., etc. Okay. I can also go in the right side and go, can you find a popular YouTube video that's really good for the layman to understand how financial statements work, and add it in there as a step of one of the things you have to recommend the clients to do prior to making a judgment call? Yeah, we're using all the interactive elements to this, right? In here, I can put, I can do web search to make sure it does do a web search, even though by telling it YouTube video, it actually kind of understands that. So I'm gonna go ahead and send that. Okay. And by the way, so here it found one. It found this one called financial statements, right? And there it is, right? And I can tell it, add this to the step that it makes most sense to add it to as a reference. And then I'll figure out, where it fits the best to add that link to that YouTube video. Okay, so you give it a chance, and it will do that. Okay, so it added it here, saying if the root cause misunderstanding, I'm gonna say add the link as well. Again, I'm not copying and pasting. I'm not saying, okay, good job, let me do this. I'm completely telling it what to do. And this is going to be, there will be a future, I think, where the way we interact with computers will be just like, it will literally be like a movie about the future from 20 years ago, where people are just, talk to the computer, and the computer just does stuff. Okay. So I think that's kind of where we're heading. And that's really truly the power, I think, of the artificial intelligence. It's not so much you chatting with it and copy and pasting stuff. That was like version 1. We're on like version 3 right now, where we're seeing these tools kind of come to life with this interactive element. So it's super exciting. Okay. So something else I want to show you is agent mode. So agent mode is super cool. What agent mode does, so the one that's inside ChatGPT, it would actually like spark open a virtual computer and it will do stuff. But it's the agent mode built into the ChatGPT browser is actually better. So I'm going to contrast the two. And I'm going to say, create an Excel or CSV file that is a good simulation for bank feed transactions I can use to train my new bookkeepers on how to use QuickBooks Online Banking. So create a file with maybe 20 or 30 transactions, a very typical debit, credit, deposits, expenses, list of transactions with vendors that people would relate to, right? So like Chipotle and American Airlines, and online subscriptions, and random name of a customer, a wire coming in, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So what the agent mode does, and I might not get a chance to show you the result of that. It's just gonna show you kind of like how it starts. Okay, because these webinars are only an hour. If they were a little bit longer, we could go really deep into these things. Maybe a version 2 of these will go deep into the agent mode. But notice that what happens is it just basically runs like a virtual browser. And in this virtual browser, it opens up like Excel, and it's like a free version of Excel, and it starts creating the file for you. Now I'm gonna show you something else. I'm actually gonna drag this from my other monitor. This right here is called ChatGPT Atlas. I believe it's only available for the Mac. It is a Chromium-based browser, so it's a browser exactly like Google Chrome. And what it does is it has a functionality that can take over your browser and do things in your behalf. Okay, I'm gonna have my hands up the whole time while I do this. So I'm gonna show you. It's pretty interesting. So I'm gonna click here where it says Ask ChatGPT. Again, this is not ChatGPT.com. This is the ChatGPT Atlas browser, which is like a Google Chrome browser, where you log into your QuickBooks or Bank of America or whatever, and you tell it to do things. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell it to categorize things for me. Like I'm gonna say, like, do the work. Like I'm literally gonna watch an intern work and do things wrong, by the way. But I could do that. And you can do this inside of a Google Sheet. You can do this inside of a Word doc. So like this is a glimpse into getting ChatGPT to take over your browser and do the things that you would otherwise do on your own. So I'm gonna tell it, okay, I want you to pretend you are a bookkeeper, and I want you to select the right category for each of these transactions. When you click on the category, there's going to be a drop down that shows your whole chart of accounts. And then once you pick the category that makes the most sense, click on post and go to the next one. I'm just going to watch you work while I drink coffee, and I enjoy my life being human. And you're a robot, so you're my slave. Go. Okay. So you tell it whatever you want to tell it. It understands the context. Okay. And it'll just do the work. Okay. And again, I was being funny. Okay. But what you can see is say, look, I can see your browser. Do you want me to continue? I'm going to say continue. And then basically you're granted permission to take over your browser. So right now my hands are up in my head. If you can see a little webcam, and I'm not doing anything. So this thing is acting like a person working on it. So it's going to take a screenshot. It's going to kind of look at the screen and say, okay, what can these things be? It's going to see whatever doesn't have a category. It'll click on your behalf, and then it will scroll up and down and find the best category. Now, I guarantee you will get it wrong, okay? Look, I even tried to type meals, and it's not even in my chart of accounts. So I realized that it's not there, and it got stuck, okay? So this is where then it tells you, look, I got stuck because, the meals account doesn't exist. So I can tell it, create the account, right? Or I can say, look for the next best thing, right? So I'm just going to add that context. I prefer that you look for the next best thing, or if you don't know, use one of the uncategorized options, okay? Don't get stuck trying to create new accounts or find the perfect account. Now, if that sounds like the same way the type of conversation you have with an intern is because this is what it is. This is exactly what it is, right? Like these these robots, so to speak, that we're hiring to do work in our behalf are kind of like interns. Okay, it got stuck again because there's too many options for uncategorized. Okay, so I gotta give it more instructions. Uncategorized expense is the best one. Okay, and is this a more efficient way of working? No, absolutely not. Like I would have done 30 transactions at this point. But over time, again, just like I showed you how context works, with the history and the chat history and all that stuff, it will do that. Now, one of the challenges I have with ChatGPT is that it gets lazy. It looks for an excuse to kind of stop. Okay, but I want you to do the work. Stop asking me stuff and just do it and move on. Unfortunately, this is part of the struggle, because this type of computing is very, very computing intense. This is probably the single most expensive thing in the AI world. Like God knows how many trees I have killed just by doing this example. Okay, it uses a lot of power and it's very expensive for them to do that. Keep going, please. Do a couple more. Okay, so it won't be a point until you can actually do things where you don't do a lot of stop and go, where you maybe have like a little laptop next to you, a little computer next to you, and then with that computer next to you, you're kind of just having it do stuff. Okay, and so this is just a glimpse. When things get more powerful, when maybe some of the computing happens in-house, when ChatGPT is not as lazy to do this, it's going to get better. Now, I think it's only available on the Mac. By the way, just going back for a second, this is the agent mode that created a CSV file for a bank feed simulation. I'm going to go ahead and open that CSV and kind of see that. And we could probably wrap it up at this point. Here we go. So it created a bunch of transactions that I could use for my training. So this is a good example of that agent mode, right? So it will be really useful. Like if you want to create a bunch of invoices with a bunch of details, with an item list, all that stuff, that could be useful. So yeah, so we did whatever we had a chance to do, at whatever point we were able to do. Hopefully this is a good foundation. Again, we can go in depth into any of these categories in a future version, but I hope you liked it, and I hope you are encouraged and excited about the AI world coming soon. Happy tax season.